Hello, I'm Sasha. Today I'm going to be testing out the Nude Mood palette from ColourPop. Here are the swatches. It is a warm-toned neutral palette with 9 different shades. There's a nice range of light, medium, and deep tones. There's also a good mix between the matte and shimmer shades. So now I'm going to get started with the eyeshadow look. I already have a bit of base makeup on, which I'll link in the description below. I'm going to start with this shade here called Bare to Wear. I'm going to build this up in the crease as a transition shade. It's a beautiful light tan color. I'm also going to build it up a little bit on the outer corner of the eyelid, just to give us a nice base. Now I want to use some of this beautiful deep brown tone here called Moody. I'm just going to take it kind of in a diagonal direction. It's pretty highly pigmented, so I'm trying not to use too much at once. I'm just working it on the outer edge of this eyelid and up into the crease. I can already see these shades blending together so nicely. I love how with just these 2 shades I'm already getting a nice sense of dimension. I'm just going to use a big fluffy brush to soften up those edges. Now I just want to use a little bit of this beautiful bronze tone here called Lap of Luxe. It's a beautiful creamy shimmery shade, so I'm going to take it on my finger. Just going to pat it in the eyeshadow and then pat it on the outer corner of my eyelids. I'm going to blend that in using my pinky finger, kind of trying to move it in an inward direction. Now I'm going to dip my fluffy brush into Lap of Luxe and just work it into the crease there. And do the same thing on the other eye. I'm only using a little bit, I just want to deepen up this area a little bit. Now I'm going to use my big fluffy blending brush again just to blend out any harsh edges. Now I want to do some shimmery shades on the eyelid. Now I'm going to dip my pinky finger into Put On Airs. I'll just pat it in the eyeshadow and then pat it in the center of the eyelid. I just want to create sort of a pop here. I'm just kind of working it in to the center of the eyelid area to create a nice highlight. This is a really beautiful and concentrated color. I'm already seeing a lot of that nice kind of bronzy glitter. Now I want to use some of the shade here called Wink Wink. I also want to use my pinky finger, so I'm going to go ahead and clean this off with a makeup wipe. Now I'll dip my clean finger into Wink Wink and pat it in the inner corner area. I'm patting this lightly in and trying to sort of work it into the other shade we already have here, which is called Put On Airs. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. These are really beautiful tones. They're a little bit more chunky than I like, but they do really catch the light nicely, and they're just really beautiful, gorgeous, kind of warm neutral tones. Now I want to do a similar look on the lower lash line. So I'm going to start with this tone here called Bare to Wear. I'm just going to take this small smudge brush and pat it in, and then I'll pat this on the lower lash line. I'm not taking it all the way across, just about halfway. I want to leave space for that inner corner highlight. To add a little bit of depth, I'm going to dip into the shade Moody. I'm only going to use a tiny bit though because it's a very highly pigmented shade. Just going to kind of rub that in near the outer corner of the eye. Same thing on the other side. Now I'm going to use a bit of this Pacifica Cherry Matte Setting Spray. I'm just going to spray my brush, pat it and Put On Airs, and then press that glitter into the lower lash line area. Same thing on the other side. Just kind of press that in lightly. There's a little bit of fallout with this shade because it is kind of more of a chunky glitter. Now I'm going to spray the clean side of the brush with setting spray, pat it into this light shimmery shade called Wink Wink, and then work that shade into the inner corner. I think this one might be a Super Shock shade. It seems like it has more of that creamy consistency. If I kind of draw the brush across the eyeshadow as opposed to pressing it, I seem to pick up more product that way. Alright, so that's the completed eyeshadow look. I'm going to go ahead and finish this off. For eyeliner today, I'm going to use the Too Faced Sketch Marker in Deep Espresso. This is a beautiful liquid liner, and I wanted to do kind of a nice cat eye effect with it. We got so many gorgeous tones going on that I didn't want to take it all the way over. I just kind of stopped near the middle of the eye and sharpen up that edge a little bit. Now I'm going to do the other side. To finish this off, I'm going to use the ColourPop Volumizing Mascara in Black on Black. It has a nice kind of hourglass shaped brush. So I'm just going to wiggle this on from root to tip. I want to make sure I'm covering both sides of the lashes. I like this mascara pretty well. I feel like it's a little bit more dry than some that I've tried, but I do love that it's so affordable and seems to have a nice volumizing effect. To do the lower lashes, I'm just going to wipe this off on a tissue. Then I'm going to take it kind of vertically just to give a hint of color. If you've been enjoying this video, please like or consider subscribing. I post new beauty videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 10 a.m. Central, and I'd love to see you there. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can be the first to watch my new videos. Now I just want to quickly finish off this look. You can skip ahead to the review or the eyeshadow palette comparisons using the links in the description box below. For highlighter and blush today, I'm going to use some shades I bought in this ColourPop custom palette. You can buy all of these shades individually or together in a set like this. So my highlighter today is this shade right here called Here Kitty Kitty. So I'm just going to take a little of this highlighter on this nice kind of highlighting brush. I like to work it in above the cheekbone here. I'm also going to highlight the brow bone area, down the nose, Cupid's bow, and top of the chin. For blush, I'm going to use this beautiful peachy pink shade here called Why Hello. I thought it would look really nice with the warm tones in the eyeshadow palette. I used to only wear cool pink tones because I have kind of cool undertones, but since a lot of these eyeshadow palettes have been more warm recently, I've really been getting into some of these peach blushes. If my eye looks a little red, it's because I accidentally got some mascara in it. I think it's working itself out on its own, but it just kind of turned my eye a little red. For bronzer today, I'm going to use this cool taupe shade here called Bel Air. This one is actually an eyeshadow, but sometimes I have trouble finding the exact shade of bronzer I want, so I went ahead and tried an eyeshadow instead. It's a little bit harder to apply because it's smaller than my brush here, but overall it tends to work pretty well. So I like to put a little bit near the hairline just to kind of warm things up. I'll put a little bit down the sides of the nose, along the jawline and neck, just to sort of tie everything together. For lips today, I'm going to use this ColourPop Just a Tint. This one is in the shade Gimme S'more, which is a beautiful sheer nude pink tone. So I'm just going to draw this on. I really am loving these lip tints. They just add a hint of color and have a nice kind of everyday look. I feel like it makes your look feel more polished, but it's not too heavy and they're really easy to draw on, especially if you don't have a mirror handy. They're also really moisturizing and have a nice kind of fruity taste. I really like this lip color with the eye look. Now that I look at everything together, I feel like I need just a hint more blush. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of the shade here called Why Hello. Just that beautiful kind of peachy pink. I often have to add more blush. I feel like when I rub it in, I kind of get a little flushed, and so I think there's more on than there is. So that's it for the look. Just to quickly summarize, I really did enjoy using this palette. It's only $14 for 9 colors, which is a really good value, especially considering the quality of the shadows. When I heard this was a warm palette, I thought it might end up looking kind of orange and unnatural, but I actually really like the way that it came out. Probably the warmest shade in the palette is this one here called Mugged Out. I didn't actually end up using this one, so if you wanted more of a warm tone to it, you could also try using that one. I really did like the range of this palette. I thought there was a nice mix of light and dark tones and matte and shimmer finishes. I really liked the shimmer in Lap of Luxe. It was kind of soft and subtle. Unfortunately, I feel like Put On Airs and Wink Wink were a bit more chunky than I like, and so they had a little bit more fallout and were just a little bit harder to work with. But the finish was really beautiful, so I think I will probably still use these on occasion. If you're looking for a nice neutral palette with a mix of mattes and shimmers, this is definitely a good option. I especially like that it's only $14 and the shades are really highly pigmented. I feel like it's a really good value for the money. Before I go, I just want to do a quick comparison between this and some other palettes. If you're looking for a more affordable everyday neutral palette, you might want to try this e.l.f. Bite Size Shadow in Cream and Sugar. This one only costs $3 as opposed to the ColourPop, which costs $14. If you're the kind of person who tends to use only a few shades in a palette, this could be a great option. I did a quick finger swatch so you could see these two shadows side by side. On the top here is the e.l.f. Bite Size Shadows, and on the bottom we have the ColourPop Nude Mood. You can see how there are some very similar colors between these. There's a little bit of a difference in the chunkiness of the glitter, for example, and some of the tones. There did seem to be slightly less pigmentation and more cooler tones in this e.l.f. palette, but at only $3, it's really hard to beat the price. Probably the most similar palette I could find was ColourPop's Going Coconuts. Here are the swatches so you can see them side by side. Nude Mood is on the top and Going Coconuts is on the bottom. You can see how they have a similar mix of light, medium, and dark tones, and a nice blend of mattes and shimmers. However, Going Coconuts definitely skews a little more towards the neutral to cool tones, whereas Nude Mood is warmer. Going Coconuts is slightly cheaper at only $12, but overall you'll find a very similar color range, and these are both great neutral palettes. However, I think if you have one, you don't necessarily need to buy the other. You're not going to get a dramatically different look between these two palettes. Next we have ColourPop's Double Entendre. After Going Coconuts, I'd say this is probably the second most similar palette. While this one is slightly more expensive at $18, it does add some additional shades. It has a very similar kind of warm brown theme, but if you don't have either one, I probably would recommend Nude Mood first. I feel like Nude Mood is a really wearable kind of condensed palette, but if you already have Double Entendre, you might already be able to create some very similar looks to Nude Mood. Next, I wanted to quickly hold this up against Blush Crush. These two eye collections came out at the same time. I did a separate review of this, which I will link in the description below. I think they're both really nice kind of everyday palettes. These two are both the same price and have a similar mix of light and dark tones and mattes and shimmers. The main difference is that Blush Crush definitely skews more towards cooler tones and pinks, whereas Nude Mood is more in the warm brown range. Just for comparison's sake, I wanted to show this against ColourPop's Bare Necessities palette. This one is quite a bit more expensive at $34 for 30 shades. However, if you already have Bare Necessities, you're going to find a lot of the same shades that are in Nude Mood. Bare Necessities is a nice mix between warm and cool nudes. Bare Necessities has a fantastic mix between warm and cool nudes. It includes everything from warm brown tones to nice rosy mauves. If you're considering buying Nude Mood and Blush Crush together, it'll probably cost you about $28 for 18 shades. In that case, Bare Necessities might be worth a look because it's only $34 for 30 shades. However, the advantage of a palette like Nude Mood is that you know all the shades go together. A larger palette like Bare Necessities can sometimes be overwhelming, especially if you're in a hurry in the morning. While this isn't an exact match, I also wanted to hold this up next to Too Faced's The Natural Nudes. This one just came out and cost $45 for 16 shades. This Too Faced palette definitely has a warmer feel, much like Nude Mood. However, it does add certain rosy shades, so if those are important to you, you might want to consider a palette like this or Blush Crush. The Too Faced palette is definitely more expensive, but what's interesting to note is that I felt like the quality of the shadows was very similar. Both are really easy to blend and have a nice range of shades, and the glitters tend to be a little bit more chunky and bold. I have a whole video on this Natural Nudes palette, which I will link below. If you're choosing between the two of these, I definitely recommend Nude Mood because it's a better value for the money. If you really want something like these rosy tones from this Too Faced palette, I'd also recommend checking out Blush Crush. You get both Nude Mood and Blush Crush for less than the price of the single Too Faced palette. If you're looking for a nice compact nude palette and you want something talc-free, I'd also recommend considering Lawless the Little One. I also have a video tutorial for this which I will link below. The shade range in this is slightly different because it has a creamy white and deep black. This one more is a mix between neutral browns and warm golden tones. This one is almost twice as expensive at $25, but it is a really nice talc-free option with lots of versatility. I hope you found this video helpful. Please leave a comment and let me know what your favorite eyeshadow palette is. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.